Hello, friends. Happy New Year. So, if you're anything like me, you're a big procrastinator, hence this video going up after New Year's Day. And you may not have your New Year's resolutions, may still be thinking of them. But, anyways, this video is how you can make and keep some accurate and good golf resolutions in the year 2026. So, in order to create good resolutions that will benefit your golf game, we first need to identify what type of golfer you are. So, if you play golf the entire portion of the year, if weather's good where you are year round, you are a full time year round golfer. If the weather's not good in the winter or in the summer and golf is not possible during those times or you don't play during those times, you are a seasonal golfer. The reason this matters is whatever type of golfer you are is going to determine how much time we have to achieve these goals and to accomplish these resolutions. So, for a full time year round golfer, our resolutions are going to center around the entire year. Whereas if you are a seasonal golfer who only plays in the summer, it might only center around the summer. If you only play during the winter in the warmer states, then it'll probably center only around the winter. The next thing we need to find is what type of category you fall into as a golfer. So when I categorize my students, they fall in one of three categories, which is either a casual golfer, a semi-competitive golfer, or a fully competitive golfer. I'll go over these, but if you think that none of these really fit, drop it in the comments below. I'll try to kind of figure out what your situation might be. But a casual golfer is someone who only plays golf for either recreational purposes or social purposes. So maybe all your buddies play and you just play with them. Maybe you're playing just so you can get out there and walk 9 holes and try to kind of get more active. Those are your casual golfers. Your semi competitive golfers, I like to think of these as the salesmen. These are the people who are going out to play with someone. You want to kind of keep up with them. You want to kind of be around the same skill level as somebody, but you're probably not playing in tournaments or doing anything super competitive where you're trying to win money playing golf or anything like that. Next is your fully competitive golfers. These are people who are playing in tournaments. These are your pros. These are people who want to get better at golf. They want their game to get better and stronger, and they want to be at the top of their game to compete against other golfers. Additionally, this can change based on who you're playing with, where you're playing, different things like that. So, as a PGA pro, I play in tournaments for part of the year. So, in that case, I am a fully competitive golfer. Every day that I go to practice, I'm working on getting better to compete in these tournaments, trying to place high on the leaderboard, win money, so on and so forth. However, as a PGA pro, I also get the benefit of playing with members sometimes. So occasionally I'll get to go out and join up with three golfers to just play around. In this case, I'm not trying to be a fully competitive golfer. I'm not trying to absolutely destroy them on the golf course or anything like that. I'm playing more of a casual round, maybe a semi-competitive if, we have a little game going or something like that. But these situations can change how you see yourself as a golfer and how your goals are going to affect your golf game. So now that we have that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get into how you can kind of structure these resolutions and these goals. And if you kind of know what category you fall into, I'll put the timestamps up so you can kind of see where you want to skip into the video to see what applies to you. Or feel free to watch them all, kind of see what different categories can look like and where you kind of want to be at maybe in the future. Maybe in a couple of years, you want to jump from a casual golfer to a semi competitive or a fully competitive golfer. So you can kind of see where you are now, where you want to be. But those timestamps are up on the screen. So if you want to jump ahead, go ahead, and we will go ahead and start with your casual golfers. All right, so my casual golfers. Maybe you've just started the game this year. Maybe you're trying to pick it up this year. Or maybe you've picked it up before and you're just trying to be social, just trying to be kind of recreational, playing golf either for your health or just to be around some buddies. Anyways, whatever the case may be, this is how I would kind of structure a couple resolutions for your group. Okay, so my casual golfers. So maybe you're just starting out trying to get into the game. One of the most common situations I see is that beginner golfer who is just starting to get involved. Maybe you have some friends that play. Maybe you're just looking to pick up a new hobby. And some of your goals are going to look very playing dependent. So a lot of these goals can be I want to play X number of rounds every month or X number of rounds every week. Depending on if you're seasonal or year round, this might look a little different depending on how long your golf season is and how long you have to achieve these goals. So, if you're a seasonal golfer, maybe you're trying to really squeeze in a little bit more in the couple of months that you play. If you're year round, maybe you want to play just a couple times a month just to start to get out there and start to learn the game. But one of the most common goals for casual golfers is playing a certain number of rounds, getting out there a certain number of times, that kind of thing. So another thing I see is if you're starting to get into golf is taking lessons. So maybe you want to take X number of lessons every month or every week. That's another very common goal for your casual golfers. Another one that I found that I think would be pretty interesting is a lot of people who are starting to play golf in a casual sense, they kind of want a lot of people to play with. So one thing that I've seen is someone going out as a single, they don't really have anybody to play with, and they want to play with another group of people. They want to be paired up. So a common goal I see is I'm going to play with X number of people every month, or I want to play with a new person every time I play. I love these goals. I think they're great. They get you out there socially, and they grow the game of golf. You get to kind of be exposed to someone else playing with you. You get to kind of befriend that person at least for 4 hours, and you get to kind of see how they play, how they like to enjoy their round of golf, which can expose you to maybe playing a different kind of format that you haven't played before, or maybe playing at a different course that they might be a member at or that they might like to play very often. So I like how playing with other people tends to open up a lot of doors for you, and I highly encourage you to put that in one of your goals or resolutions for 2026. Now getting to my semi-competitive golfers. So semi-competitive, like I said in the intro, is kind of like your salesman. You're out there playing. You don't want to make a fool of yourself. You want to at least be able to get around the course, but you're not really super competitive. You don't really care a whole lot about what you shoot, but you definitely want to hold your own out there on the course and not look completely hopeless. So some of the big ones here, lessons are obviously a big one. A couple of my friends have just started their sales jobs and they said they're going to be playing golf with some clients. So I urge them to get lessons, hopefully from me, if not from me, from somebody. But maybe one of your goals or one of your resolutions this year is to take X number of lessons every month. Maybe it's to play X number of rounds, just like our casual golfers. It can be a couple other things. Maybe it's to shoot a certain score, or maybe it's to fix a certain part of your golf game. Maybe you have a really bad slice, but once you get into the fairway, you're fine from the fairway to the green. So maybe it's improving those tee shots, helping you get off the tee and kind of into play a little better to hopefully make you look a little better in front of some clients. So things like that, semi-competitive. Semi-competitive can also kind of be on the higher end. Maybe you're like a high school golfer playing on your high school team, and you're not really one of the best players, but you want to get to that point. So maybe it's trying to jump a few spots in your lineup. Maybe it's I'm going to practice this number of times a week in order to kind of jump a few spots in the lineup. Maybe it's I want to compete with the guys I'm playing against in my high school matches. So it can be things like that too, where you're not necessarily highly competitive. You don't really play in a lot of tournaments outside of your school matches, stuff like that. But some situations like that where maybe you want to get a little more competitive and you want to make that jump. So a lot of these goals for our semi-competitive golfers are going to focus around taking lessons, practicing a little bit, and trying to kind of put the ball in play a little more and get to a better spot with our golf games. So another goal I see very commonly with my semi-competitive golfers is your handicap. Uh, Handicap, it's a great way to determine, if you're getting better, how well you're playing, stuff like that. But this system isn't perfect. So just know that if you have a handicap goal, maybe you want to drop from like a 15 to a 10 or from a 10 to a 5. Maybe you have some kind of goal like that. While it's important to kind of track that, and while handicap is a good indicator of how you're playing, it's not everything. So just know that you're going to have outliers. It's important that if you're keeping a handicap goal to post every score, even those ones that you might not care to post, to give you a really accurate representation of how your golf game is going. Another thing with that is if you're keeping a handicap, you're probably keeping some stats as well. So another thing you can do is kind of look at how many fairways you're hitting, how many greens you're hitting, how many putts you're having per round. Try to isolate one spot of your game which isn't as bright as the others. So one of my recent students sent me around. He had about a 50% fairways in reg, he had about 25% greens in reg, and he had about 30 putts in a round. So while these numbers are good to keep track of, obviously the one that kind of stands out from the rest is the greens in reg being 25%. This number kind of a little lower than the others, kind of a little worse than the others. So take that into account. Kind of think back to your round. Think of, all right, what shots did I have going into the greens? Did I even have a chance to hit the green? If I did, where did I miss at? Did I pick the wrong club? Did I have a certain miss? Did I miss all my greens to the right because I have this bad slice? So being very conscious of keeping your stats and also the reason why your stats look the way they are is a very good way to kind of structure some of your goals and resolutions. So now we get to our highly competitive golfers. And just like our semi-competitive, this has a couple different tiers that you could be in. So obviously you have your professionals, your tour players, all that. They kind of have their own kind of structure to everything, but a lot of their goals are going to be very technical. You might have some technical goals. Maybe you want to, fix a certain part of your golf swing. Maybe you want to do something very specific, and hopefully you're working with a pro on that. Hopefully you're working with someone who knows what they're talking about and teaches the game of golf. But a lot of your goals are probably not going to be as technical. So one thing that I see from our highly competitive golfers are a lot of handicap goals. Maybe you want to drop to a scratch or better. That's a great goal to have. Personally, one of mine this year is to get to a plus handicap. So some stuff like that can be stuff for very highly competitive golfers. A lot of your goals are going to come with very specific practice. So maybe it's I want to, take a certain number of strokes off my game within putting. Maybe I want to drop my average putts per round from a 36 to a 30. And in order to do that, there's going to be a lot of practice involved. So maybe part of that is I'm going to practice putting this amount of time every week. I'm going to work on this drill on my putting. I'm going to work on my path for my putting stroke. I'm going to work on my speed, stuff like that. It's going to get very specific. You're going to try to narrow down to exactly how we're going to achieve whatever the desired outcome is. Another thing with your highly competitive golfers is some of your goals might not even happen on the golf course or on a practice facility. Maybe one of your goals is I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, or different things like that, where you see the benefits of achieving these on the golf course, but they don't actually happen on the golf course. So going to the gym can help you up your swing speed if done correctly. Different things like that. Maybe you're going to go on runs twice a week, something like that, where you're going to benefit physically and you're going to see those benefits on the golf course, but the actual making of achieving those goals don't actually happen on the golf course. So that's one thing that separates those highly competitive golfers from others is a lot of times you're devoting time outside of golf, outside of being on the golf course, to these goals and to getting better at golf. And that's going to do it for our goals and resolutions for the year of 2026. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I would love to help you out with any of those. And as always, let's play for par.